Narcissists have some seriously sneaky ways of digging in on us, manipulating us, and getting us to do what they want. My hope with sharing this information is that you can identify with it and or avoid it in your own future. So that's what we're talking about today at queenbeing.com. So let's get started. Closed captioning provided by Athena Moberg and CPTSDFoundation.org. My name is Angie Atkinson, and on this channel I offer free daily video coaching to help you discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships. I like to call it toxic relationship rehab. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button and let's get going. We call it narcissistic deflection. Unfortunately, this is a very common thing that happens in a relationship with a narcissist, where they deflect blame onto you in order to take it off of themselves for something, right? They don't want to take responsibility for their own stuff. It's when you're being abused, but your abuser tries to convince you that you're the abusive one. Or maybe, if you're female, they blame it on that time of the month. They accuse you of just having horrible PMS. They couldn't have done anything wrong. It's obviously your fault. Or maybe they'll just label you unreasonable or crazy or an overreactor. They'll say you're making it all up. They assign all blame literally for every issue or concern in the relationship to you, and they become offended and also angry if they don't think it seems like you want to accept all the blame and responsibility for everything wrong in the relationship. If you dare to question them or, God forbid, get upset with them, they will accuse you of being the abuser. They'll do anything possible to run a good smear campaign on you, telling everybody around you that you're crazy. Just how crazy you are and how difficult you can be. And they'll make you look and feel like someone you're really just not. Let's talk about flipping the script, shall we? I like to call it the narcissistic flip. So that's one of the most effective types of gaslighting or manipulation from a narcissist. And that is when a narcissist sort of flips the script on you during an argument. I have dubbed it the narcissistic flip because it's exactly what it is. They flip it around on you, right? And it's a regularly employed manipulation techniques for many narcissists and other types of abusers. The flip happens most often when you make a valid point or have the nerve to question anything the narcissist says, does, thinks, or feels. That's about the time that everything turns back around on you, and suddenly you're the one who's sorry. How about that? Mostly that you bothered engaging in yet another pointless argument with a narcissist. Denial, my friend, it ain't just a river in Egypt. Okay. Real quick though, let's define denial for our purposes today. In this case, we're talking about the psychological term, which means that someone literally claims that something did happen or didn't happen when the opposite is true. So in the case of narcissists, they use denial. Denial of their own behavior, denial of events and situations when it's convenient for them. And almost always in situations where they, the narcissist, could be considered at fault for like literally anything. Feel me? Negative especially. If they can take credit for something, that's a whole other ball of wax for them. Denial can be used as a part of the whole brainwashing process by a narcissist. It's the same process a lot of narcissists use just to control their victims, and if you think about it, while they may have originally employed denial to avoid taking responsibility for their own behavior, a lot of narcissists have discovered that denial can be a very effective part of gaslighting as part of the process, right? Narcissists will intentionally say things to provoke reactions from you. They will bait you, and then they will wait for a response. If you don't act quickly or dramatically enough, they may poke you. And aggressively antagonize you until you just explode. Yeah. Then they tell you you're crazy, that you need help, that something is just plain wrong with you. How do you deal with this kind of manipulation? Obviously, almost always, going no contact is the ideal solution. We already know this. I don't have to tell you this. You already know, right? When dealing with almost any toxic narcissist. But in the real world, there are other circumstances and other things to consider. Sometimes you get stuck dealing with a narcissist who, for whatever reason, you have to co-parent with, or maybe you haven't managed to escape yet, or maybe it's a relative or an in-law and you just can't practically disconnect. You know, it's not practical for you to do that, so you're forced to deal with them. The way to deal with that is to recognize that the narcissist is trying to get you to react. He or she will absolutely use it against you if you do. Let's talk about the blame game, shall we? You've heard of it, right? The blame game. The so-called blame game is just what I've already described. When a narcissist constantly deflects responsibility for their bad behavior, and then they project it right onto the nearest victim, which often is the primary source of supply. Have you been there? Of course, this puts you as the primary supply on constant alert, and you feel the mental and the physical effects of always being in a state of stress. It affects your blood pressure, your neurological function, and even your ability to eat and sleep. Other physical effects might include changes in weight, getting sick more often, falling ill, all of this stuff. It's been reported quite often by victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse. CPTSD, weight issues, heart issues, fibromyalgia, lots of things. Check out my videos on that stuff. Let's talk about a few examples of the blame game in action, shall we? A narcissistic wife caught lying to her husband about spending an evening alone with a male colleague. She claims when she's found out that she only lied because he always overreacts to everything. We kind of talked about this in our jealousy video, right? In reality, the narcissist's husband lives in fear of her erratic and seemingly unprovoked emotional attacks. And of course, the general invalidation of his character that he suffers on a daily basis. A narcissistic husband then, in my next example, is found to be cheating on his wife, let's say, with her best friend. It happens. When confronted, the narcissistic husband claims that he was treated poorly by his wife, neglected, and overly criticized by her. He claims that he tried to fix the marriage, but she'd have none of it. And in reality, he's the one who was mentally abusing her, although he's over there getting all the sympathy, saying she was doing it to him. It's called a smear campaign, my friend. And now he has engaged her friend as a very toxic flying monkey. He has taken her friend from her, engaged her in this mess, and now they're together. You see? Gaslighting, flying monkeys. Big fat mess. Here's another example. A narcissistic woman has a lunch meeting with a colleague, brand new colleague in the office, and she's secretly a little threatened by this girl, right? She shows up an hour late, the narcissist. When the colleague tries to be like, you know, it would have been great, but I gotta get back to the office. I don't want to be late back on my second day of work or whatever. She cuts her down for being so uptight, neglecting the opportunity to get to know her. She's like, come on, it's just the office. Just hang out with me here. Let's have lunch now. Nobody will even notice you've been gone. She's secretly a little threatened by her, so wouldn't it do her some good if that person didn't stick around? But this person's too smart, and she says, well, I gotta go. Look, here's some things that you need to know in that situation if you are stuck in that type of relationship, whether it's work-related, romantic, family, or otherwise, right? If you're dealing with a narcissist or otherwise toxic family member or friend, or colleague, you probably have a lot of someone else's thoughts floating around in your head right now, especially if you're one of their sources of primary supply. You might not think you're good enough. You might think that your feelings and your thoughts aren't genuine and relevant to the world. And you might even feel like a big fake when you do try to follow your dreams, simply because you've heard for so long that you are not worthy, that you don't deserve good things, whether you heard this indirectly or directly. If your toxic relationship happens to be family-based, you may have had so much conditioning that you aren't even sure which way is up anymore. The first step to healing is to start with your own head. You have to change those thoughts and those limiting beliefs that are holding you back. So we're going to start right here. When I was in my own toxic family situation, I struggled with feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness, being not good enough, and all kinds of stuff. I felt like nothing I did, nothing I said, nothing I thought, nothing I believed was real or genuine, because I was taught that anything came out of my mouth had no credibility, had no validity. I was constantly invalidated. I felt like I had to hide who I was in order to conform to the expectations of a toxic family member. But I learned some important lessons as I started that healing process, and I want to share them with you now. If you're currently in this situation, you may have never heard these things, and when you first hear about them, you probably won't even believe me. But these are the truths, and if you need to watch this video again, keep doing it until you get it into your head that these are the truths. Number one, changing your mind will help you change your life. It will. Change your perspective. It'll change your world. I'm living proof of it. It works. We're going to talk about the top 10 things you need to know if you're in one of these relationships. First thing is, you are a legitimate person with legitimate concerns, legitimate thoughts, real feelings, real aspirations, and you can do that shit. Yes, you can, my friend. You are good enough. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need anyone's endorsement. You don't need anyone to say you're good enough. You don't need anyone to say you're okay. It's okay with them if you do this to succeed. You can get validation through success in your own self-dictated endeavors. It's not about you. It's not your fault. You aren't bad and you aren't broken. You can literally do almost anything you want to do if you simply decide that you're going to do it. If you choose to do it, You'll be compelled to take inspired action, and my friend, you can make it happen. You have something real to offer to the world. You matter. You have value. You can be exactly what you choose to be. And choosing your own identity doesn't make you lazy, stupid, selfish, entitled, or otherwise unsavory, contrary to what you may have been told. You get to choose your own identity every single day. You get to decide who you are and how far you go in the world. You can compromise for someone you love up to a point. But there's a certain point at which it's time to choose your priorities and choose a path. But you have to remember this. Compromise means that both parties give and bend, and both parties are satisfied with the outcome. It's not compromise to give up everything you love and want in the world in order to keep someone from being mad at you. It's not. That's not how it works. If you were to walk away from the toxic relationship that you're dealing with or that you've recently dealt with, the world's not going to end. In fact, it's going to get a lot brighter for you pretty quickly. It's going to be difficult. And to be fair, you're going to have some soul searching to do. There's a lot of things that you're going to have to think about. I've got all those things covered for you, but we'll get to that. Personally, I had to re-examine literally everything that I believe to be true. You might call a narcissist a great pretender, right? Somebody who uses big gestures and blatant flattery to get what they want from us. Would you agree? The narcissists are all about relying on being dishonest. They lie to you. They cover things up. They hide things. They tell you half-truths. They go way above and beyond with details sometimes. They're all about manipulation. They deceive you. It's all right there. We know what narcissists are, and if you don't know, check out this video and you'll see. Number one, narcissists have this way of having a handle on the crowd. What do I mean? Well, according to them, they have a panel in their backyard or their back pocket that tells them that everything they say is right. What? See, they exaggerate. They generalize. They tell you things like, everybody knows that you're lazy. Everybody thinks that you're not friendly. Nobody likes you. You see, generalizing and pretending like they understand everything and that everyone agrees with their statement at that moment. 9 times out of 10, that's not the truth. And you know, their main goal here is to sort of con you into realizing that everything they say is true, that everybody sees the world the way they do, and they especially want you to see the world the way they do. And most importantly, they have these selective truths. They are attempts to really hide anything that puts them in a bad light, that makes them seem to be the ones at fault. They will not take responsibility, and one of their favorite ways to avoid that is with these little selective truths, this little panel they have in their back pocket that agrees with everything they say. Number 2, they pretend to be vulnerable when they're really not. Just like a narcissist tries to make you think that you need the narcissist, they also act like they need you. They tell you, oh my God, I can't live without you. They want you to feel important to them. They want you to feel like you matter and that they really need you because they want you to feel guilty. They want you to do what they ask you to do, including to do their bidding to hurt other people sometimes. And they want you to do it without question. They want you to just blindly trust them and do everything you can to be on their side and to do their bidding and to take care of them and to take care of their houses and whatever else they want from you. And they're really, really good at making you feel guilty if you don't do it. Remember, they're very vulnerable people, believe it or not, because somehow they have built identities that are so fragile. Like I've said before, you could put them on the end of your finger like a little glass egg and carry it around. That would be about as strong as their little egos could handle. Obviously, if their ego isn't fed, that little ego egg is broken very easily. Here's the worst part of all that. They do need somebody. They need supply. But it doesn't have to be you. It could be anybody. And you'll see that if you ever leave them or they leave you, because instantly, almost, a lot of them will jump right into another person's life. It's pretty messed up. Number 3, narcissists need you to think that you need them, like I said before, for a very specific reason. They need you to think that they're going to protect you somehow, that they're going to be there for you in ways that other people aren't. Well, what this inevitably leads to is they want you to be dependent on them. They will use their money, their power, their wit, their charm, how beautiful they are, how handsome they are, and they will call this a package. And they will promise you that being close to them will allow you this protection, considering these other factors. Does that make any sense to you? This brings me to number 5, and it's something that came up in a recent session with a client. Intermittent reinforcement, which basically means giving you a little and a few crumbs here and there, ever so often, just to keep you hooked. Okay. Now, if we're going to go into a more serious definition here, there was a study done where lab rats were given a little pellet of food every time they pressed a certain lever. They continued to press the lever as long as the food came out. When the food stopped coming out, what did they do? They lost interest, of course. They had no reason to press the lever anymore, right? What was interesting is in the same study, or in another part of that same study, when the rats were given the pellets sometimes, but not all the time, guess what they did? They kept pressing the lever for the pellets. And the reason for that is because they know that sometimes they're going to get it, but not all the time. That's how the narcissist kind of keeps us hooked, because just like the rats, sometimes when we give them what they want or we press the lever, they give us a pellet. They give us a little something out of it. We get some love or a hug or a kiss or something awesome. But with the, just like with the rats, if they consistently did that and then they stopped, we'd lose interest. But because they never consistently did it, they did it sometimes in the beginning and, for a little while, and then they'd take it away for a while and give it back for a while, we're hooked. Intermittent reinforcement. Narcissists do this with love, with money, praise, compliments, attention, opportunities. Every once in a while, they'll say something cool, something you really love. They'll have a great conversation with you. They'll act like that person you first met back in the day. They'll do something for you. They'll make your life a little easier, give you a little bit of a charm or a little flirt, a little bit of attention that you haven't had in a while. And here's the worst part of this whole concept, the rewards feel huge. They're magnified. They are rare, but they're so good when they happen that they're worth holding on for some people. A lot of us have been there. It's like you haven't eaten in a week. You're starving half the time, 75% of the time. And so if you haven't eaten in a long time and you're really, really hungry, the McDonald's hamburger that somebody gives to you on the street might taste, even though it's cold and, maybe a little old or whatever, a little stale, it's going to taste amazing to you because you haven't eaten in a week. You see what I mean? It's the same concept. Because of the fact that you most often feel abused, criticized, devalued, deprived, used, ignored, any little bit of positivity feels amazing. And it's kind of the same deal with Stockholm Syndrome, but we'll talk about that another day. Speaking of which, how about false flattery? Narcissists are starving for praise, and they use this to assume, because they don't know what empathy is, they assume everybody's starving for praise, right? They assume everybody needs attention just like them. So when you first meet them during the love bombing phase, a lot of times you get the whole, oh my God, you're so special. Oh my God, you're so amazing and beautiful or handsome or perfect. And there's nobody else in the world like you. I've been looking for you for my whole life, blah, 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 right? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Maybe they'll tell you that you only, you're the only one who understands them, or you're the only one who could possibly know how to take care of them properly. That's a good one. In reality, narcissistic flattery is not really about who you are at all, unfortunately. Certainly they can pick out some good qualities about you like anybody else could. But the unfortunate thing here is that they rarely actually bother to look and see who you are. But because they're so busy flattering you and telling you you're so beautiful or smart or handsome or whatever and amazing, you allow them to miss the mark. You allow them to make you feel that way. It feels good. I get it. Don't think I'm judging you, because I've been there too. But what we all know by now is that narcissists see us mostly in what we do for them, not the other way around. You see what I mean? So if you ever asked a narcissist, hey, do you love me? What do you love about me? They would say, I love the way you, take care of the house. I love the way you rub my back. I love the way you do this or that or the other thing. It's always about what you do for them and not so much ever about who you are as a person. Number 6, narcissists always do everything with strings attached. Sure, they might save you from something terrible, but when they do, guess what? They expect you to pay them back trillion folds. Okay, I just made that up. They live in this world where everything has a price. They will be the ones who will tell you nobody does anything without expecting something. Now, sometimes that's true, but how that's true for me, sometimes I do things, I don't even tell people I did those things. I help someone out, I do something nice for a person, I don't tell anyone else. And the reason that I do those things is because it makes me feel good to do them, and because if I can help someone, I don't need the whole world to know. I like the way it makes me feel, right? Maybe that's selfish of me, but that's how it is. Now, narcissists are different. They will do something, and they will do it in order to get something back in return. There are always strings attached with a narcissist. If they give you a gift, it'll just be a little bit of time before they figure out a way to guilt trip you into doing what they want. You understand? Have you been there? Have you done that? Let me know in the comments. So like I said before about narcissists, they really need praise, they need attention, they need admiration, all of that stuff. One of the things that they do to you is they give you what they call faint praise, or just a little bit of praise, like, that's good. Because they need this type of attention so much. Once they get comfortable with you and they get used to you, once you're past the love bombing phase, the best thing that you're going to be able to expect from them is faint praise, is just a little bit here and there. Just like, basically, because they can't too directly lavish you with praise, because if they do, they think you'll feel too good about yourself, and then they won't feel good about themselves, because narcissists really love to be the center of everything, and they really want to look like the best person in the whole wide world. So if you come home and let's say you bought a new outfit, or you had some hair thing done, or you got a facelift, instead of being like, wow, you look amazing, they'll be like, oh yeah, nice, that's great, or aw, look at you, or something that makes you wonder, was that even a compliment? Or they'll do the backhanded compliment thing, right? Where they'll be like, oh, it's about time you got your hair cut. It's about time you bought a new pair of jeans. Those other jeans were really making your butt look big. So what I'm saying is, basically, they might give you a little praise here and there, but it's always qualified. It's always given with what I call a grain of salt, almost a little piece of sand to make it hurt. It's always about giving you just a tiny bit and then taking it right away in the same sentence. Finally, narcissists like to con you by lowering your expectations. So what do I mean by this? Well, the thing is, narcissists are always working on disappointing everybody, right? That sounds funny. But narcissists intentionally underdeliver as often as possible for a reason. Do you know what it is? It serves them. It serves them because then they can actually intentionally underdeliver from here on out. So my point is, they disappoint you because they want disappointment to be what you expect from them. So if they even give an inch, it feels to you like they've given a mile. So for example, if you've been asking them to take out the trash for 10 years and they never do, one day they take out the trash. Oh my God, that's the best thing in the whole wide world, right? I can't believe he finally took out the trash. I can't believe she finally did that chore I asked her to do, or whatever. It's the simple little things. And so by keeping you in a perpetual state of disappointment, those tiny little crumbs they throw at you goes right back to it. It's all about, ultimately, it's all about intermittent reinforcement. Everything that they do comes back to that point. If they're going to con you, they're going to do so by lying to you. It's the same thing. You've got your cycle, love bombing, devalue, discard, love bombing, devalue, discard. So that cycle fits here. Okay. During the love bombing, everything's fabulous. Once you're past that point, you start the devalue and the discard, and then you come back around and do the cycle. Well, in that case, it's intermittent reinforcement, because you get the love bombing, you get the, oh, you're so amazing, and then you go back to devalue, then you go back to discard. It's one thing after the other. That's what it all comes down to. Underneath all of this stuff, all of these little cons, it's all about the narcissist being and feeling inadequate, because they believe subconsciously that not only will they not survive if they don't get the attention they need, but they think that others are out to get them and hurt them and take away that attention. And they also tend to think that if they lose, it's unacceptable. Sometimes this is something that was drilled into them by a parent or a family member. Sometimes it's just their own messed up stuff. Bottom line, the narcissist sees the world as a hostile place, as though if they don't do something to hurt someone, someone else is going to hurt them. That, along with their sense of entitlement, leads them to try to con people, to pretend, to posture, to hoodwink, to destroy other people with their manipulation. And they don't even think twice about it. So learn these signs. Know this. Narcissists, they don't change. You don't have to play the narcissist games if you choose not to. And y'all know what I think. Don't play those games. These are some unusual ways, unexpected ways, subtle ways that narcissists manipulate you in relationships in order to gain control of you and run your relationship. A narcissist will be habitually late, but blame you for the delays. For example, if you take an extra 5 minutes to touch up your makeup or tie your tie if you're a guy, the narcissist, who is always late, will stand there and tap their foot, tap, tap, tap. Come on, you're always making me late. Come on, come on, come on. Or the narcissist stands around touching up their makeup and tying up their tie, and when you show up and everybody says, hey, you're late, the narcissist goes, yeah, my partner over here really is always late, da 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 da, and really they're the one who's late. They just blame you for their lateness. They are the one always flirting with people and cheating on you and doing bad stuff, and yet they turn around and project that right onto you. They say you're the one engaging in that particular type of activity. They start an argument that begins to escalate because they poke you, and pretty soon you hear them go, "Why are you always yelling at me? How come you love to fight so much?" Next up, narcissists will drop the ball on a big important thing like paying the house payment or paying the rent, the electric bills, or whatever, doing something around the house that needs to be done, or a deadline for something, and then they'll turn around and leave you to deal with it. They'll blame you, "Well, I don't know why you didn't take care of that." Another example, they sometimes will, like, let's say you have a chronic illness and you're feeling terrible, you're in bed, you've got the flu. They'll say something to you like, "God, you're always pretending like you're sick," or "You're always acting sick when you're not really sick." Another thing, the narcissist might rely on you for all of your cooking skills, but then when you need them to take out the trash or put a new roof on the house, they fail you and you have to figure it out yourself. Anytime you and the narcissist do something together, they take all the credit. A narcissist will always see everything wrong with you and never ever notice the bazillion good things about you. Like, for example, they might notice that you stutter when you talk sometimes, but they don't notice that you have a great job that makes their life so much easier because you bring a bunch of money into the house. Or maybe they notice that you are always behind on your laundry, but then they don't notice that you are working 3 jobs to cover all the bills while they're sitting on their ass doing nothing. A narcissist will always make you feel inadequate no matter what you're doing. A narcissist might consistently stand you up or leave you waiting while they insist that you are on time to the very second to show up for what they want you to be there for. They have no consideration of your time. A narcissist will clock your every move, know exactly where you are at all times and what you're doing. But if you have the nerve to ask them a single question about what they're doing, "Why are you always stalking me? Why are you always so worried about me? You're so jealous. You're so insecure." Anybody recognize that one? A narcissist consistently criticizes you and refuses to recognize any talents that you have, and in fact minimizes any talents that you have. A narcissist will keep you running in circles with their many requests and requirements. A narcissist will be standing there having a conversation with you, and as soon as they get bored or it stops being about them, they'll pick up their phone and start texting, or they'll call somebody or answer a call or whatever, mid-sentence. A narcissist will make so many demands of you that you become completely overwhelmed, and then they'll call you crazy for being overwhelmed. Let's talk about a narcissist in Facebook pictures or any other social media. They'll post very unappealing, ugly pictures of you, pictures you would never post, pictures where you have a double chin or where you look as terrible as you can possibly look. And yet, whenever there's a good picture taken of you, they'll never post it. But they also, if you're in a relationship with them, very often won't post a picture of you and them together being all happy because they might be afraid that their other supply would see it. They might post unappealing pictures of you and put ugly captions with them, just act like they're funny. A narcissist will make up rules in a relationship that apply to everyone but them. For example, they might say, "Okay, whoever puts something on the calendar first is the thing we'll do together." So you keep a calendar and everything seems good, right? But then they hurry up and fill up the calendar. Or if you happen to be able to pop something in there before they do, guess what? They're too busy that day, or that's just not really a good day to do that thing, or you just really don't want to do that thing. You'll have a conversation with a narcissist, and 10 minutes later, they don't even remember it happened unless it's convenient for them. They'll insult you and poke you on your most sensitive areas all the time in order to tear down your self-confidence. They'll say you're too sensitive, or you worry too much, or you're overly vain, or whatever if you don't agree with them about their insults about you. They'll constantly compare you to other people. If it's a narcissistic parent, they'll compare you to your other siblings. If it's a narcissistic spouse or partner, they'll compare you to other people. They say something like, "Well, that girl really knows how to look like a woman," or "That guy really knows how to take care of his girl," implying at the same time that you don't. They'll never let you finish a sentence without butting in, especially when it serves them to do so. Like if you're getting any attention from anybody ever. They'll do everything they can to tear down your social support, your family support, anyone who could possibly help you stand up to them. They'll hate that person and try to immediately cut that person out of your life. They will make jokes at your expense or the expense of their children or the expense of other people in their lives who are supposed to love them and they are supposed to love. And usually when they have an audience, so that if the person becomes upset, they can act all shocked and surprised and tell the whole audience that, oh my God, look at how they're overreacting. That's a crazy person. This is often used in conjunction with a smear campaign. They will instigate arguments between other people, triangulate people in order to more successfully manipulate you. They will lie or twist the truth about what person A says or does, so that when person B gets upset, they'll tell person A what person B said, omitting the part where they started it with lies, of course, just so that they can get people to give them information they can use against you in the future. If you try to call a narcissist out on their behavior, they will immediately claim that they're sad or depressed or they're just not themselves lately, or they'll get defensive and call you a big bad liar. They'll say they're sick, they'll say all kinds of stuff, but under no circumstance would they actually accept responsibility for their behavior. They'll try to break, ruin, or destroy anything that you love, anything you care about, anything that makes you happy. This might be stuff, this might be people, situations, relationships. They don't care. You're not a real person to them. They might come home from work early one day, take a big old nap, maybe a lot of days. They come home from work, immediately go to sleep, and then when the rest of the family or the rest of the people in the house are ready to go to sleep, suddenly they have rage they must share with the whole world, and the whole world must acknowledge their rage, right? Yeah, it's called sleep abuse. They play the victim role like a pro. Anytime anything doesn't go their way, they act like the whole world's against them and it's mostly your fault. Maybe you buy a house and it's a big, beautiful house. They don't contribute any money to it, and yet they walk around bragging to the whole world how you bought that house. Or maybe they are so proud of you because you got this great job and you make all this money now and you're buying all these expensive things, and they're walking around bragging about you because you're their spouse or their child or whatever. But then at the same time, every time you're alone, they're like, you're so materialistic, you're so disrespectful, whatever. Or maybe you make a choice to be a stay-at-home parent. They don't support it, they don't like it, so they walk around telling everybody how lazy you are or how lucky you are that your spouse supports you. I could go on and on. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation used very often by narcissists and other cluster B toxic personality types. The idea behind gaslighting is that the person using the technique wants to really kind of dig into the other person's sort of psyche and make them kind of doubt themselves, their memory, their sanity, their perception of the world in general, because ultimately, by doing that, they make that person more controllable by them, the narcissist or other type of toxic person. I did a little poll in the SPAN group on Facebook, and I asked them a very simple question. I wanted to know what experiences they had during gaslighting. I asked them to share their most memorable gaslighting experiences, and I promised them that while I would use their information, their quotes, their thoughts, I would not use their names. I have 78 different gaslighting experiences to share with you, and I think if you listen to them, you will find several themes going through the narcissist's words and these experiences that these other survivors have had. I just want to remind you before I get started, number one, these are not my own thoughts that I'm about to share with you. These are the actual experiences of other survivors who are going through or who have recently gone through this kind of abuse. And number two, some of these experiences use the he pronoun and some use the she pronoun, some use the they pronoun. In any case, they are from people of all different walks of life, different sexuality, and different lifestyles. But one thing remains common, and that is that gaslighting seems to be almost uniform across the board. The most interesting thing when I did this poll was how many people were me tooing everybody's statements, how many likes, and how many commiserations were happening. This is proof, in my opinion, that it's really not you. Please take a few minutes and listen to this video and tell me what you think, because this might really help you realize, number one, that you're not crazy, and number two, that maybe you really are dealing with a toxic person, especially if you can relate to a lot of the things here. So let's get right into it. Number one, he'll call me names, and when it's brought up in conversation later, he doesn't remember saying it or what the context of our conversation was. As if that matters. He'll also do things to me that he would never put up with and call me crazy or a sensitive snowflake when I react. Number two, he also says that he knows what people are thinking and that he's a bit psychic. Number three, blaming, rude, loud tone of voice, denying everything, negative. Then in an instant, talking sweet to me, tries to kiss on me. Number four, I know I didn't say that to you because I know that's something I would never say. Okay, so it was wrong to call you that, but I was angry and I'm sick of you calling me a liar. My memory is horrible and I know you can't be perfect, so there's no way it happened like that. I swear on my mother and my kids that those pictures deleted themselves. Things a narcissist says. Number five, He told me things that were said or done never happened, made me doubt myself and doubt what actually occurred. He was incredibly good at manipulating the truth to retell everything into a completely different version of events that ended up making him look like the victim. It was to the point where I had to start documenting things, writing things down exactly as they happened, and documenting times, dates, and facts, screenshotting things, etc., just so I could be absolutely sure. Number 6. Totally denied things he did and said, even minor things that should not seem to need denial. Then he would say, apologize for how rude you are. Number 7. Totally denying the things he said, when I know for a fact he said it, trying to make me feel like I was crazy. Number 8. Telling me he already told me something when I know he totally never did tell me. He is trying to get himself out of trouble and make me feel stupid and forgetful. Number 9. My ex-narcissist's favorite way, believe it or not, was after a discard when time had passed and he was coming back around, he would say the reason we split wasn't the way I remembered it happening. Once, he even had his brother ready to back him when I knew different. Number 10. I would ask her, is something wrong? She would say, well, since you brought it up. Number 11. I was lucky enough to be involved with a covert narcissist, so there are bound to be worse. After years of little gaslights that turn huge, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts. Number 12. Mine made a pact with me that we would both deactivate our Facebook accounts. I did for 2 months, and then I went back on to message someone that I didn't have any other way to contact. The a-hole was still on Facebook and had never deactivated. I called, and he said that was my idea, and that he never said he would deactivate his account. Big fat lie. He really pushed me to get off Facebook, not the other way around. I knew right then he was a lying POS. I started researching his behavior, and that's how I found you, Angie. Without you, I am sure I would still be trapped in that cycle of abuse. Number 13. Mine said that because he got hit on so much, I told him that I knew he liked Facebook and that he shouldn't have to change just because I was in the picture. I deactivated my Facebook out of respect for him and to make him feel more secure. Later, his Facebook kept showing up in the background of his phone, and he was tagged in posts while he was supposed to have been deactivated. He also texted me once from a messenger app, which I don't have on my phone, and we had never communicated that way before. When I asked him about it, he said he didn't know how that happened. He also got on to me about Instagram, which I don't really use, while he was still active there as well. Number 14. When he would become interested in someone at work or otherwise, and I would find out and bring it up, he would say, I can't help it that women find me attractive. Number 15. Blaming me for him cheating. Blaming me for calling the police even though he was attacking and choking me. Telling me his family would never call the police. Telling me that I wasn't vulnerable enough even though I would tell him pretty much everything. Trying to accuse me of cheating if I was 5 minutes late from work. Number 16. My narcissist was famous for gaslighting. Not only did he use all of my own statements, but he was also a finger pointer. His statements were him justifying his actions because of the way I was, making me always feel like the one in the wrong, and that I never did anything right. Here are just a few of his statements that he would repeat in multiple arguments. Did you ever try thinking, maybe I don't try because of your mood swings? You're always so negative. What makes you think I want to be around you when you're like that? Just because you're crying doesn't mean you're right. What makes you think I want to have sex with you when you act like this? You overthink and listen to others, not me. You take me for granted. No, you're the one with the attitude. You don't respect me. You're just jealous. Number 17. I was always feeling like I was having to defend myself and how I felt, when really he was watching my wheel turn to making me doubt myself and avoiding his flaws. Number 18. Mine would send me a slew of nasty messages, blast me on the phone, and then give me the silent treatment for 2 or 3 days. Then say that I was the one giving him the silent treatment even though I had sent the last message. I'm sorry, was I supposed to keep checking in on you and make you feel better while you were punishing me? Number 19. He called me a stupid, illiterate, ignorant, blah blah blah, and then 5 minutes later came out and asked me how to spell pizza. My son, who was 7 at the time, overheard it and came out and said, why would you ask her to spell pizza? She's a stupid, illiterate, and ignorant, remember? Then he says, allow me to help you. It's P-I-T-Z-A. Know how to spell cat? It's K-A-T. Can I help you tie your shoes, you idiot? And walked away. Number 20. Things they said they would do or take responsibility for, they would later change and deny ever having said it. For example, they said that I said some horrible things I would never say. She said that I dumped her when we had both decided together that a long-distance relationship wouldn't work. She denied insulting me and changing what she had said so many ways. She pretended like nothing was happening the day after going in to rage, throwing things, flipping tables, saying that she was leaving me. Number 21. It's always, I'm just teasing, or I was just joking, or I'm just messing with him. Then why isn't anyone else laughing? Not to mention, if anybody gives it back to him, he can't handle it. He can dish it out, but he can't take it. His ego gets hurt. Number 22. Telling him plans for upcoming events, usually holidays or family functions that he always ruined, and saying I didn't tell him when I did, like 10 times. It was to a point that was beyond forgetful, and I think it was done to make a reason to fight, as he ruined just about every holiday but like 2. I was reminded by family members about me crying in the bathroom, as he would on Thanksgiving, as he kept calling and being abusive because I was not home by like 8 p.m. with the kids. It was awful and stupid. Number 23. If I would get upset when he would tell me he never said something, then he would say, listen to yourself. You really have an anger issue, and you love to cause conflict. Number 24. Telling me how when they were verbally abusive, it was because of my actions. Number 25. Telling me when they hurt my feelings, I'm too sensitive or I can't handle criticism, when what they are saying is just mean and not really helpful criticism. Number 26. Going through my social media, emails, electronic devices, and making a false narrative with cheating. It can be other stuff. Accusations when what they are looking at is none of those things to prove their delusions. 27. Forgetting important detail or changing details in their actions. 28. He would say, I never said that, and I was just joking. 29. His favorite phrases were, I never said that, stop twisting my words, when I would echo them back to him verbatim. You're insane. You're effing crazy. I don't remember that happening. Stop giving me a hard time, when I would casually ask about his day. Number 30. I can literally be sitting quietly and he'll say, look at you, why are you getting all worked up? Number 31. Mine said, your sensitivity is an issue. Number 32. Mine would call me the abuser. Number 33. Say they said something or did something they didn't do, along with I forgot, not occasionally but often, and I felt like I was nagging him if I reminded him about things of importance. Number 34. Mine will say I didn't know right after I tell him. Number 35. Telling me I'm mentally ill when I'm not. This got so bad that I ended up in a mental health facility and I was told that I was 100% sane and told point blank by mental health professionals about gaslighting. They will take your pain and your mental anguish from dealing with the abuse and they'll turn it around on you. 36. Rewriting history where I'm the villain, resulting in me questioning events. 21 years worth. 37. Move stuff that I'm using. Just did it yesterday. Insisted I moved it. I was fixing a bicycle, and there's no way I would put the wrench away until I was done, as I was sitting on the floor and it's hard for me to get up and down. I was freaking out that it had just disappeared. I finally found it in the junk drawer in the kitchen. The confirmation was she had closed the adjustable wrench. I would never do that. Sometimes she will do this with valuable things, or at least things that are important to me. She will either just throw it away or dump it on the dirt floor of our outdoor shed. It's not like she's super organized either, and has a massive pile of shoes, like 100 pair or something, that I would like to throw out, but I never will. Yet, if she comes across something of mine, I may never see it again. 38. I get a lot of, I told you blank. I used to think I was losing my mind. Then one day at her brother's house, I listened closely and knew what she said and called her on it. She said, I didn't say that, I said blank. Her whole family then stepped up and said, no, you didn't. You said blank, confirming that I was correct and heard her right. So I get a lot of, you don't pay attention and you heard me wrong. Another, during unmasking or hoovering, is that she will say, I will never do blank again, I promise. Then she will do the same exact thing, sometimes within a few days. Number 40. I was trying to set healthy boundaries with my older sister, and all she could say is, you're jealous, you're lonely, you want attention. I was dumbfounded by her total disregard for my needs, and how she refused to acknowledge my adult conversation by telling me I'm just a big crybaby. It was gaslighting. She's trying to make me believe that I'm self-absorbed, self-centered, lonely, and jealous of her. I see projection here, too. She accused me of the things that she was guilty of, too. Number 41. Mine doesn't rip me up personally, but treats my younger kids like crap from a former marriage. He is diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but he has far too many signs of a narcissist. One tactic he'll use is if we're in conversation about the way he's treating someone, and I'll say to him, why are you treating him or her like that? They've done absolutely nothing to you. You're acting like a big bully, and when you treat my kids bad, you're disrespecting me too. He'll say, I know it's true. Your kids don't respect me at all. I know this. What the heck? Seriously? We weren't just talking about him getting lack of respect respect, and he will totally dismiss what I just said until I get irate and literally want to either rip my hair out or gouge his eyes out. It takes everything within me to keep cool and calm because I now know what he's doing. He wants me to flip out so that I look like the psycho one who's doing wrong. I'm embarrassed to say that I've been with him 6 years and I probably should have left a long time ago. I straight up told him that I don't want to marry someone who treats my kids, now teenagers, like crap. He's on disability for the bipolar, which was fine. I knew this when I started dating him. He doesn't want to do nothing but boss my kids around and act like we all owe him something. I asked him if he's ever been diagnosed with a personality disorder, and he said no, why? Everybody has a personality disorder. Then, when one of the kids would give it back to him, he'd say, your son has anger issues. What's his problem? I'd say, it's you. And he'd say, I'm just sitting here. I'm not doing nothing to nobody. Totally forgetting about the verbal abuse he showed my son for the past 6 years. My son was 12 and chubby when we started dating, and about a year and a half into the relationship, this guy shows his true colors, and every time my son would get in the fridge or cupboard for something to eat, he'd say, what are you doing, coming to feed again? Well, eventually my son lost weight and lost like 75 pounds and is now 18. He's wearing a size 31, 32 and is skinnier than my narcissist. Number 42. This happened every weekend I was at his house, the last 6 months of hell. He would wait until I left his house and then text to say he wanted to talk. He would then call and make accusations of cheating. It was always that someone messaged him on Facebook saying they were either sleeping with me or had seen me with different men. Mind you, I was never introduced to anyone he knew, and in return, I refused to introduce him to anyone I knew, even though he whined about it. He would refuse to show me the messages or give me a name, and even go through with my suggestion of having this person accuse me in my presence. Anyway, eventually he would pretend snore and act like he was asleep. Yes, it sounded that fake. The next day he would deny that he accused me or even talked to me on the phone. They are bat poop crazy. Number 43. I went to the police station and got a 17-year-old report because he made me question what had actually occurred. It's very sad. Number 44. He would talk to me when I wanted to go to sleep, and when I called him out on it, he would act all surprised, saying he was fast asleep until I woke him. Number 45. Keeping the most required and most often used things in the house like keys, biscuit boxes, etc. in different places every time so that I search frantically. Number 46. Once he had hidden away my school and college certificates. I had to reapply to my university, and after I got the duplicates, my originals reappeared magically. Number 47. He withheld sex, not that he was any good at it, and tried to make me think it was my fault. The narcissist would say, maybe if you wore your hair in a ponytail more often, I'd have sex with you. Maybe you should cut your hair. I like short hair. I would cut my hair, and then he would proceed to withhold sex for an entire month in response to me cutting my hair like he'd asked, instead of it making things better. Number 48. I would say, you never kiss me. I'm always the one who goes to kiss you. He would say, maybe if you didn't wear lipstick, I'd kiss you. So I'd stop wearing lipstick and he would never once kiss me. Number 49. The narcissist knows my family was too poor to get me a bike until I was an older kid, but they saved and it meant a lot to me. I'm proud of it. He, on the other hand, was spoiled as a child. I haven't been on a bike in years, but I relearned quickly and I ride as normal. I relearned just for him because I want to make him happy. So the narcissist insists that we go biking. Then he zooms up ahead of me on his bike, doesn't even wait for me to sit down on my bike. Then he tells me I can't be with someone who rides their bike so slow. I can't even bike as fast as I want because you're so slow. What is wrong with you? Why are you so lazy? Then the narcissist says I take too long putting on makeup. He makes it into a big issue in our relationship. So to show him I care about his needs, I wake up early one day and I don't put on makeup so we can go bike riding. I have body dysmorphic disorder, so this is a big deal that I'm doing this just for him. I'm proud to be outside without makeup. He takes a selfie of us and I assume that it's innocent. We start biking and he says, if you don't bike faster and do this bike trick I'm telling you to do, I will post this selfie of you without makeup all over the internet. When I refuse because I don't feel safe doing the bike trick, he zooms up ahead of me and disappears into the distance, leaving me by myself. I sob and I cry and I break down that he could try to hurt me with the very thing I did just for him. Later, when we get in the car, he claims, you're much prettier without makeup. Can't you see that? Trying to convince me that what he was doing was not emotional assault, but rather that he was trying to teach me how pretty I am. I knew there was something extremely wrong with him after that one. Number 50. Little things, like telling a story about something that happened in his past relationships, then telling a slightly different version. When I brought it up, he denied the earlier version. Built up to the discard. When he said, a month before we broke up, that I was a good woman and someday he would marry me. Then we broke up. He said he never said that, and I imagined it. Number 51. He always said I was so disorganized and lost everything that's valuable. And he would hide or throw stuff away, and he would say I've lost it again. I cried and I couldn't believe how many times I lost things, but it was all him all this time. Number 52. I came home from a prenatal swim class at like noon. I'm very pregnant. He is smashed drunk with his bestie buddy and this drunken train wreck of a lady. I had specifically asked him not to have a party that day because I was so tired, but he did. He said they'd be gone in an hour. They weren't, so I say, I'm super tired. Can you guys please either go in the other room and maybe think about wrapping this up in the next hour so I can rest? And then that starts an argument about how I'm ruining his life, being inconsiderate to his needs and feelings, and how I'm making him uncomfortable in his own home. They all force me outside in the pouring rain, as it's the only place I can get some peace, so I'm out there on the hard concrete. They're still partying. Then they come out, and right in front of me, the narcissist picks this girl up, puts her on the broken washing machine outside, and she wraps her legs around him and starts dry humping him. They see me and go inside. I go inside and she's undoing his shirt buttons and still rubbing up against him. I'm like, what are you doing? Get out of my house. I've had enough. Then he starts screaming and shouting. It's nothing. I'm crazy. She's not done anything and his buttons aren't undone. I'm hallucinating and ruining his life with my jealous rages. They all go, I think, to the pub. Later he returns and the fighting continues. From that day onward, he denies it happening. Says I'm crazy. There's something wrong with me. But I saw it happen. Number 53. It was so subtle that even now I can't pinpoint the exact ways clearly. But usually when confronted, she would take the conversation on an insane roller coaster and make my head spin so much that I didn't even know what we were talking about anymore. I was never able to get any clear answers to my clear questions, only accusations that I was somehow responsible for all of this situation. For example, I asked her why she had been so distant and didn't say a word to me while we were spending time together with mutual friends. She would reply something like, me and so thought that you were not excited about spending time together. Many times the gaslighting involved other people with whom she had talked, supposedly, about the current situation. Number 54. Every single conversation was a gosh darn game of situational word salad, where by the end of it I had zero idea what the subject was. All I knew is that I hated myself at the end of it, and I thought I was the problem for everything in our marriage. Number 55. My narcissist used to say, I don't care what you think you saw, it didn't happen. I never said that. You're so insecure, you make things up in your head. Number 56. I caught him sexting, and he told me that he was catfishing his friend's girlfriend. The trouble was he was sexting multiple women. How stupid do I look? Number 57. Mine would say, stop trying to think you know what people are thinking all the time. Number 58. I suspected he was having an affair with a girl I worked with that I introduced him to. She started being really mean and weird with me at work. He'd say, you're crazy. You're always looking into things way too much and too deeply. You always do this. This is why we fight. I started to hate myself and think that I was crazy. Turns out he was having an affair with her for a year before I walked in on it. Number 59. He would turn everything around and make it my fault and accuse me of things he was doing. Here are some actual excerpts from an email. You put all kinds of negative stuff on me and just expect me to deal with it. And I also have to deal with the knowledge that you should know everything I'm going through. You don't really care about that because if you did, you wouldn't be doing those things to me. Number 60. After telling me he hates the Catholic Church and would not meet my parents, no one asked him to, he says, this is not open for discussion. I just can't take the emotional hit right now. If you try to go there, I will just go away. I just can't take the emotional taxing anymore right now. I need my space and rest. If you push the issue, I will go away. Number 61. He would always accuse me of things he was doing, but if I accused him, he would say that I was accusing because I was guilty. But he was accusing me because he had a feeling, and his feelings were never wrong. He would tell me that I had to have cheated on him because that was human nature, and everyone cheats. At least he was honest about it. I would hold on to my secrets so he would never know. He would also cheat and blame me and say that I wanted him to cheat, that by introducing him to my friends, I knew he would want to have sex with them, or that I purposely let him overhear a conversation so he knew a girl I used to be friends with was a prostitute. I want him to cheat, he said, so I would set him up because I wanted to lessen my guilt, so I made it so he could sleep with my friends. He would also tell me that I wanted to control him and I abused him emotionally. He claimed I kept the kids from him because I was cheating and that I was a heroin addict when he was using drugs. He was always telling me I did things he was actually doing, but then he turned it on me. Number 62. I was married for 25 years and I have 4 children with my ex-husband, who was a very hard worker but turned into a drug addict because he had back surgery. Then he got hooked up with a quack who got him hooked on 3 of the strongest pain meds they could make. He refused to get help and I couldn't subject my children to it any longer. We divorced, and unfortunately, a couple of years later, he overdosed and lost his life. But before he passed, I had already started dating my now narcissist. I was already divorced, and he came along and was so attentive, complimenting, charming, good to my kids, etc. He talked me moving into his town, and the rest is history. He is not intimidated at all because the children's father is no longer living, and neither is mine. He has everyone know that he's this great guy, and he's always super nice to my younger kids when my older boys, 29 and 22, are in town for a visit. It makes me sick. I even spoke to his family about it, and they said they would call the authorities to remove him from the home if that's what I want. He's never been physically abusive, but verbally big time. Number 63. He'd say, "You never appreciate me or anything I do. You see how you treat me?" Anytime I questioned any of his behavior. He would stalk my Facebook page, my likes, and fight with me about emojis. He even made a new female friend and told her he might be going to the area soon. When I complained, his defense was, "I said I would be going down there to see my friend." The worst thing, one time he left the gas on in my place so that I could think it was my child and that I needed him there to watch my differently abled son. I know my kid, it was him. That little bit of jewelry I had also went missing, and he said, "Oh look, again, it's there." He would fight and say I'm cheating to deprive me from hours of sleep. One day I said, "Yep, you're right, I'm a cheater, so leave me, get out." His response was, "No, you would never do that." Number 64. The most common theme was his lack of engagement and failure to remember things I told him. When I would gently bring up that he wasn't paying attention to me, he'd flip it back on me every single time. He'd say I was the one who wasn't engaged, that I was the one sending short texts, that I never told him something I'd told him, usually more than once. I always knew that this meant he was seeing another woman or three and couldn't keep things straight, but I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I knew he was gaslighting me, but I so wanted to believe that he was just hurting and needed my understanding that I denied my intuition over and over. His stories never quite matched the actual timeline, and my spidey senses just kind of went haywire. The last straw was when I followed him to a hotel to meet his new supply, actually an old supply, and he told me they met in her room at 6 a.m. no less for coffee. "We're just friends," he would say. OMG, if I had $1 for every time I heard that. She was a friend of mine who lived blocks from me. She was complicit because she knew about me. They can have each other. Number 65. "You've been looking for an excuse to end the relationship for months," the narcissist said, after months of me making special plans for us, doing special things for him, and trying to get to the bottom of why he was so distant, only to catch him meeting up with the same damn woman he said he was no longer in contact with. By asking him if he wanted to see other people because he'd been so distant and disengaged, and I wanted to give him a legitimate out, he says I planted the idea in his brain, and that's why he cheated. So it's totally my fault. Yep, that's probably my favorite gaslight moment. Number 66. "You said you didn't want to come," the narcissist told me, "when I'm all prepared and waiting for him to pick me up." Isolating me was obviously pretty important to him. Number 67. "Back when we were first dating, his ex was a huge problem, calling all the time when she knew I was there, saying he would be with her during the week when I was at my place, which now I realize was probably true. She even called my cell phone. I wonder how she got my number. Of course, she was lying and crazy. We were in the honeymoon phase, so I believed him. One night we were out, and he left me to go chase her around the bar. Of course, when I got upset, I was imagining things. He was also good at twisting arguments to make me look like an idiot. He would constantly ask me stuff and then go ask his friends, as if I didn't know what I was talking about. When I would get pissed, he would tell his friends only about the isolated incidents so that I looked petty. He didn't tell them that he had done it at least 1,000 times before. Then there was the involving of friends in our problems. Well, his version anyway, outside of my presence, of course, only to come back and tell me how everyone thinks I'm drama, crazy, a bitch, etc. This only made the isolation worse because I had already stopped seeing my friends and family, and now his quote-unquote people aren't supporting me either. Essentially, I had no one except for his fan club who thinks he's great, and I'm left questioning my own sanity. Number 68. He would get paid every Friday and hand me $200 because out of his 800 or so paycheck, that was fair, right? But then by Monday, he would be broke, asking me for money for gas and smokes. By Wednesday, he would be telling me how lousy I am at managing money. Why do I always have so much trouble paying the bills when he gives me money to help me out every week? My paycheck paid all the bills with no money left. Number 69. Deflect and distract. Mine even told me early on in those words that he used this tactic at work. I should have known he'd use it on me. It was so gratifying to call him out for it when he did. He got so frustrated when it didn't work, and I labeled it. Number 70. After seeing 250 texts exchanged in 1 month on the bill, he says, we're just friends and I like talking to her. And when I ask him why he would call a hotel 10 times in 3 months, he said, I didn't do that. Maybe someone else used my phone. Are you kidding me? I'm too smart for that BS. It's hilarious. Number 71. He would gradually hurt me with insults, grounding me at home, or taking away money and food, little by little over a period of time. Since each thing he did was a smaller offense, they would add up, and one day I would just explode in a reaction trying to defend myself. Then he would say that my reaction was me abusing him. He would also say that I overreacted to the very last smaller offense that he made, when really it was a reaction to many small offenses daily over time. Number 72. When I found him sexting the local community person, he told me I was trying my best to get over you. I asked him, why were you trying to get over me when we are still together? He said, why are you doing this to me? Number 73. When I caught him downloading pics of a married ex, he says, great, now you've ruined the relationship. Number 74. She would tell me I'm beautiful after spitting on me and saying I'm a bad person, that I only have my job because I get busy with my boss. She would always degrade me and then compliment me. It was like limbo all the time. Number 75. He used to say that I'm a miserable person and I have a mental disorder. I did show signs of distress and depression and trauma. He said I'd be miserable living alone and wouldn't be able to make it on my own, and I would go into debt, so I might as well stay with him because at least he could provide for me. Number 76. Even if I would just say something like, man, traffic is crazy today, he says, you're miserable, aren't you? Really? I don't think that comment calls for signs of being miserable. Number 77. I don't have any problems communicating with anyone else. Only you, she would say. Number 78. Mine ignores things I ask him to do or not do. If he does do something around the house, he will do part of it and leave the rest. Leave tools and mess here and there, and tell me I'm ungrateful and abusive if I say anything. He forgets things and then denies they were his responsibility. He makes comments about people needing to take mental drugs and such to other people, and he refuses to honor my boundaries physically and then blames me because I'm so cute he can't help it. What do you think of all of that? I know it's a lot. I know there are a lot of you sitting there right now, if you're still with me, thinking, what in the world is she looking in my kitchen window? Maybe there are some of you who want to tell me that some of these things are things that survivors have also felt and said and done. And you might be right, so please don't misunderstand me. Again, these are the experiences shared by fellow survivors, members of this family who have been right there in active gaslighting. So this brings me to the question of the day. The question of the day is, did any of this stuff feel or sound familiar to you? And if so, which ones? What would you add to this list? What are some other ways that narcissists gaslight us in toxic relationships? Share your thoughts, share your experiences, share your ideas in the comment section below, and let's talk about it. You never know who you can help with a simple comment. As always, thank you so much for being a part of my day and a part of my life, and hey, thanks for letting me be a part of yours. It really does mean a lot to me. That's all I've got for you right now, but before I go, make sure you take a look at the videos I'm leaving for you right here and right here. And while you're here, hit that subscribe button right there so we can stay connected and continue on this healing journey together. I'll see you soon.